graduating class, and we're very honored to have Doug Tennapel with us this evening. You know, Doug is a graphic art novelist, an illustrator, an animator, and a writer. He's also the creator of video game characters like Earthworm Jim, you might have heard of that, and The Neverhood. His success in video games led to a career in television with the Earthworm Jim animated series and Cat Scratch for Nickelodeon. But he didn't stop there. Doug has also sold the rights to several of his graphic novels, some of which include Creature Tech, Tommysaurus Rex, Monster Zoo, and Ghostopolis. I see a theme there. And finally, to top it all off, he's currently writing a primetime animated sitcom for television. So please help me welcome Doug Tennapel.
I am 6'8". This is not an illusion. I don't know who this podium is made for, but it is not for a 6'8" man. Well, I got my big giant black robe, so that qualifies me to look like a Harry Potter villain. That would make me Lord Voldemort. I'd like to thank President I.mov, Dean of Academic Affairs, Jonathan De Asentis, Dean of Student Affairs, Thomas Bustamante, academic directors, staff, and faculty, to the parents, and finally, the class of 2010. You are about to be flung out there. As my chaplain put it at my school, he said, college is just the running start you get before you hit the brick wall. But the news gets worse, because I can read all of your minds. The arts are always the first luxury to be canceled, reduced, diminished in tough economic times. Wait, the news gets worse. Because we're in, perhaps, the worst financial catastrophes in this country's history. And the news gets worse. Because even better, you're perhaps in the worst managed state in the Union, which announced today a 12.5% unemployment rate. Everyone here has thought this. I'm reading them loud and clear, especially the parents, especially the dads. G.K. Chesterton said, "The paradox of courage is that a man must be a little careless of his life in order to keep it." These are the times that will test you, both as people, but also as artists, especially as artists. The good news is that I know a lot of artists. I am one after all. And we are perhaps the laziest, most business illiterate group ever to work. So the work field's actually pretty easy to compete in. You're competing with artists after all. If you cannot count on your own work ethic, then at least count on the next guy's incompetence. That's what I tell my children. The Coen brothers wrote it best in The Big Lebowski when they said of Lebowski, he was the laziest man in California, and likely makes him the laziest man in the whole world. Stephen King wrote a great allegory for human life called The Shawshank Redemption, wherein he likens life to be like being in a prison. Here's a little clip of the dialogue I'd like to share. It's about a guy named Andy, who, like you, was falsely accused and thrown into prison. I always think of artists, especially the culinary ones, as being accused of a crime they didn't commit. And he says in that line of dialogue, that's the beauty of music. They can't get that from you. Haven't you ever felt that way about music? And then read a fellow captive who's hardened and been in prison forever. Says, well, I played a mean harmonica as a younger man, lost interest in it, though didn't make too much sense in here, in prison. And he responds, no, here's where it makes the most sense. You need it so you don't forget. That there are places in the world that aren't made out of stone. That there's something inside that they can't get to, that they can't touch. It's yours. And says, what are you talking about? And he says, hope. Red says, hope? Let me tell you something, my friend. Hope is a dangerous thing. Hope can drive a man insane. It's got no use on the inside. You better get used to that idea. Hegel is one of my favorite stupid philosophers. He talked about a thing called the zeitgeist, which literally means the spirit of the age. It is the philosophy which rules our time, which we all float down in that raft, whether if we know of it or not. Today's zeitgeist is propelled by people out in the outside where you will be flung to have a different job than yours as an artist. They tell us that we're a meaningless swirl of molecules. You are a random collision of particles. Listen, you and I can find no meaning in a random collision of particles. If that is the truth, then there is no meaning. There is no art. There's no such thing. Hope is an illusion, if that is true. If we're just particles, beauty, morality cannot be measured in particles. The idea of murder is wrong does not weigh anything. So it will never show up in a laboratory by those other people on the outside. And here's the secret I have come to tell you. Civilization was not created by particles. Man did not build the airplane, write the Shakespearean sonnet, dream of going to the moon, write the Bill of Rights out of an ancient accident of particles. They were the free will creation of an artistic mind. If we are prisoners of the particles, then the persons who bring hope, relief, and vision are the artists. And the Bible says, without vision, a people will perish. You may hear that your work are just doodles. You may think that your food is just something that slobs occupy themselves. It's just junk. It's just sustenance. They're molecules going in any old shape, and they're molecules sustaining more molecules. You'll be told that you just fill houses with furniture, or just make video games to occupy the time of people's wasted lives. Those are lies. Lies of fellow prisoners who don't want to see hope because they fear that what we hope for may not be true. But if it's not true, if the arts are meaningless, then all is lost. Civilization will die. It will end in the particles running out of energy, running out of gas, inertia. Then death follows. Then nothing. This is the message for my family, my 4 children. Without hope, rooted outside the materials, without you, being flung into the world. You must go show them meaning and beauty. When the prisoners needed hope, we didn't give them a map.